Testing. This whole system is a little weird. Not weird, but there's a little. It's kind of a triple buffering scheme because you have your. Normally, you have double buffering in a game, at least double buffering, because you don't want to draw to a visible buffer where you're going to get tearing and stretching and tearing effects and other things like that as it visibly draws. So you always want to prepare the entire graphics buffer off screen and then flip, double buffering flips between the two. True double buffering draws to one, then flips the graphics card to just point to that memory, and then draws the next frame in that space in memory, and then flips again to tell the graphics card, okay, display that. So each alternate frame is drawn. Okay, then another kind of double buffering, you draw to an off screen and then blit it on the bush, one blit in one go onto the main buffer. So that step is basically this STL flip. Okay, that's our double. We got triple buffering here. So yeah, there's double buffering between the visible surface and the window, basically. So it's drawn off screen and then flipped, okay, to be visible. That's using STL flip. But then, because this game is like 320 by 200, there's an extra step. This is a retro game. Look, your Windows. My Windows is in 1920 by 1080. But the game is in a window, first of all, which has its own size in pixels, and then secondly, the issue here is this game is a retro game where we specifically want to draw 320 by 200, which was the original Duke Nukem 1 resolution. So we have a third buffer in our triple buffering scheme that just draws the game buffer, or tiny, in 320 by 200. The game buffer is drawn in 320 by 200 when it actually draws, each pixel and the frame count and all that nonsense that's going on in the screen is drawn to a 320 by 200 window. And then that is then scale blitted in a very crude way to a second off-screen buffer. That is the actual double buffering then used in the flip. So it's at the it's the second stage. I've added these funny retro settings. You can play in fake simulated CGA now for extra retro effect. It's just a bit of a quick hack. Basically, as it scale blitz 320 by 200, you could never do this on old hardware, it would be too slow. But on new computers you can do it and it doesn't even feel it. Yeah, so for 320 by 200, it literally per pixel it reads the original pixel from the 320 by 200 buffer, 320 by 200 times, and then does a lookup in the CGA palette for the closest match, and then instead of splitting that color, the original color, it just copies the, and there's a scale up as it does that. You know, I'm 1920 by 1080, so each original pixel of the 320 by 200 corresponds to like 3 by 3 or a 4 by 4 pixel block or something. I don't know what exactly, but yeah, you get the idea. So I can flip real time. This is a CGA, simulated EGA 16 colors, which is quite fun to play if you ever played EGA games. Then you will remember this color palette. Or you go retro settings, and I can flip that live. It's not using a different sprite set. It just does it as like a real-time effect when it draws the... So what is the point of this story? I want to try and make the engine a little bit more generic. 320 by 200 is horrible. We do it in Nukem because, just to demonstrate something, if I open the level editor, boom, now we're in the level editor. The level editor, you can see, nothing has changed, but suddenly we're in high resolution, very high resolution. So all along it's been a very high resolution window, just pretending to be a low resolution window. You know, I didn't recreate the window or anything. When you're in the level editor, then instead of doing that step of copying from the third buffer, scaled up into the off-screen buffer to flip into the main buffer, it just becomes, this is now just plain actual double buffering. So this, yeah, level editor, yeah. So this special flip wrapper wraps STL flip, but does a few extra things to handle the triple buffering. Basically, if there's a special visual passed in as the source visual, then it does a scale blit from that, and that's the game buffer. But if you're in the level editor, then it just passes null to tell it just to do a normal flip. And it's still doing back double buffering. Okay, I'm getting slight tearing there, I'm not sure why. Is it still doing double buffering? I'm actually not sure. It might be doing single buffering. I don't see tearing in the game though. Oh no, no, it looks fine though. Anyway, and also, because I'm using this weird scheme, there were other cheats. What was it? Wide mode? Oh, okay, this is one. Still 320 by 200. This is a cheat, but it's just to make a point of the things. I'm trying to make the engine itself generic. There's a number of things. The frame rate is limited to 18, but that's literally just hard limited. It's easy to unlimit the frame rate, and we can easily handle higher resolution. In theory, we should be able to handle higher resolution sprite sets, like 32 by 32. I've forgotten what the other mode was. A large mode, or Control Alt B, Control B, Control Shift F6, Control F6. Large mode? No. There's another mode in the game that I've forgotten how to activate it now. The shortcut key. But all these hard-coded, I just want to look at all these hard-coded things. It's so that's Control Alt, Control Shift G, Control Alt B, Control Shift B, Control Shift W. Alright, that's Control Shift W. That's kind of a cheat, really. It was supposed to see if it would be more fun to just play like this, or an experiment to having a different layout that's more like other games. But now it's no longer like Duke Nukem. So I consider it a cheat, even though it just isn't. We could make a version 2 that's a different game that has nothing to do with Nukem. And I really want to avoid, yeah, okay, but no, nothing. Control Shift B. Big mode, large mode. STLK B. Not STLK B. What is it? W. Large viewport mode and big viewport mode. Those are terrible names. So large viewport is actually wide viewport. Big viewport mode is just backspace B. So backspace B, voila, look at this. Now this is very cool. Basically, instead of scale blitting, it now switches to using just plain double buffering. It doesn't render into the third buffer anymore. It's just using plain double buffering. And it renders the game itself in very high resolution into, just scales up the game viewport so that it, now this is also a cheat. It's also hidden behind a cheat. Because obviously now I can see almost the entire, I can see about 60% of the level, so, or more even. So it's effectively a cheat. So it's a cheat. It's considered a cheat. You have to activate the cheats to get into this mode. But the point of the thing is the engine very easily handles very high resolution. And now what I want to do is make it so you could have configure it like whatever game you want to make. If you want it to be 32 by 32 sprites, or 64 by 64 sprites, or if you want the main game viewport to be, whatever resolution you want it to be, you should be able to do that. It'd be nice to do, it'd be interesting to do a game like a bit like the Lost Vikings. That was a great game. I don't know if anyone remembers it. So yeah, okay. What is my point? Go on backspace B. So then we can switch back to this normal mode, or switch into this mode. I'm not sure where my health is displayed at this point in time. The other thing you're going to do, there's also a command line parameter to the game. So the final thing we can also mess around with is the scale. I can pass scale 1 and it'll force the window to be the same resolution as the 320 by 200 buffer. There's not much point to that, is there? But it is used, there is a point, but it's used in certain cases, like combined with full screen mode on the other. So that's the actual resolution of the game. It's actually crazy. Okay, so we can set the scale double. You know, I can force it to be double. Now each of the 320 200 pixels becomes exactly 4 pixels, a 2 by 2 in the output window. Might be scaled because I've got, no, it looks right. I'm not sure. Oh yes, I disable the DPI stuff, I think. Alrighty. Windows DPI scaling. I think somewhere around scale 4 or 5. Yeah, is. So if we set scale 4, what do I want to do? So if we set scale 4, okay, and go into backspace B mode, we have now 320 times 4. Oh, this calculator is absolutely atrocious. Horrible. 320 times 4, 1280, 200 times 4. 1280 by 800. So it's kind of old-fashioned resolution. But if we use 32 by 32 sprites, and let's say we wanted 1280 by 720. Let's say we wanted a 1280 by 720 game window. That's on a scale 1. So on a scale 1, but we want, instead of 320, I don't know, let's say so we want a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, right? 0.56 times 1280 by 720. So for the sake of example, that might be too high. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is I want people to be able to use this engine to make whatever game they want. So they should just plug it in and rebuild it with a few small changes to say, okay, I want my game to have 32 by 32 sprites and a resolution of whatever, blah 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 resolution. So graphs.cpp, main.cpp, Oh, there's another weird obscure flag. 640 by 480 mode. Anyway, initialize graphics. So I've got a config.h, right? Why is it not actually included anyway? Graph.h. dgraph.h. stl.h. Do I have a config.h? No. I could swear I did. Data.h. Probably confusing that with. But that should not be config.h. There should be. Should it? Should it just be config.h or something more general? Game config, like different configs, different things. So I want to be able to say, like, it could almost even be a command line parameter if you want. So everywhere where I have 320, basically. That should now become, that should actually be, I think, previous source. I'm not actually sure. Previous source. Yikes. Escape. I could really break something on some platforms. Gosh. That code path is not being followed if I'm using a scale of 1. -1 is just auto. Wow, that's actually... Why is this source? Width and height not 320 by 200? What's going on? Must be. Let's see if this is working in debug mode, and then I'm going to just put a breakpoint there and see what's going on. Because maybe I've misunderstood something fundamental. This should be 320 by 200, right? And you know, I must have really, unless the back game buffer is also the same size as the window, but it only draws to 320 by 200 of it. That's possible. No. Yes, it's possible. It's quite possible. Because I did this very long ago, and I must have done this. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. It's probably more than 10 years ago. Anyway, let's see exactly. So RC source 320 by 200, and foo, indeed 1600. All right. So I had a slight wrong misconception there. What I described earlier, it's not drawing the game buffer. There's 3 buffers, but they're all the same size. No, they're not all the same size. Are they? I don't know, let's see. RC dist is 1600 by 1000. And RC source is 1600 by 1000. Huh? But then, if we scale view, and they're not equal. Alright, I don't know what the fuck. Because this code path is followed, as far as I know. So it could be the third buffer is also really big. And the same size as the other buffers. But it's just not. Scale is true. $320 RC sourced with. Oh, that's right, because it's saying draw only 320 by 200 from that buffer. What if it's smaller? There's a lot of. Then we want to downscale it. We want to do a downscale blit. Oh, or a crop. Anyway, I don't want to do that now. I just want to get this working for some specific. The point is, you don't want to play a game in a tiny window. You want the window as big as possible if it's going to be in a window. So either you want full screen mode, or you want the window as big as possible. And if the aspect ratio is wrong, you want it to have black on the sides actually, or black on the top. If it's not if it's full screen. But let's just see what's going on in this code. So RC source is set to 320 by 200. It's saying, even though it's a big buffer, the game draws to a tiny corner of it. And it's saying, okay, copy only that little piece, regardless of how big the buffer is. What the hell's going on here? Scale X, scale Y. Why would we ever want these two to be different? That'll look horrible. I don't think they ever are though. I think the way they... Because when we create the window, we multiply 320 by 200 by some scale factor. That's how the window is created. There's a multiple somewhere in the code, yeah. Basically, if 4 scale is the 4 scale, otherwise, unless it's too big or some such, otherwise just default blah 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 blah. So it uses a little bit of logic, like see things like that. So that should actually be like the Pandora make file should be able to say, okay, force the game to use 320 by 200, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so if we want something like this, struct, right? But inconsistent naming going on. This game should be something like, I don't know, struct video game config, and there should be something like game resolution X, game resolution Y. Does that make sense? Who knows? For 2D games it makes sense, for 3D games it doesn't. Is there any 2D game where I suppose it's up to the game if it makes sense or not. Someone might want the game to behave that way. But then bigger people, you don't want people with bigger screens to have higher resolution screens to have an advantage of seeing more. That's kind of like then the larger, it feels a bit unfair. I don't think that's a good way to program a 2D game. You know, whatever screen you have, you shouldn't get an advantage just because you got a 4K screen per se. Like I've seen 10 times as much of the game viewport. What about an RPG game? What if we're not even making a game? But an application. Yeah, game resolution X. I call it a game. Off screen main buffer. Resolution X. So then, and these can be pre-calculated. Like, what? We don't need to calculate them every single time. I should actually fork the whole thing. Oh, with history. Because it's actually a big. Should I? What about all the ports that are directly off the source? No, I shouldn't fork it. Because I'm not gonna break. Like in theory, people should be able to just forward to the latest GitHub without a problem. So, like for Dave Newcomb, we know it's 320 by 200. Always. Because that is by definition, we'd be mimicking that retro game. Yo, why am I falling asleep? When else did I eat yesterday? I don't know if I should create a config.h or what. That shouldn't be, it should be something like video config. Main buffer, that's a main off-screen buffer. Main render buffer. Yeah, main render buffer. Because that's where we render. But the weird thing is, the CGA and EGA effect can then only be done in this case because I'm using triple buffering. What if I wanted to do it and I wasn't using triple buffering? No, you could still do it. You just transform the pixels in place and then flip. No, but that's in video memory. That could be slow. You could need a shader maybe, like my friend Donovan said. Use a shader. Pixel shader. Anyway, for now we know we're using triple buffering. I may be misunderstanding how it even works. No, I'm not. Actual third buffer in Windows. Third buffer maybe EGC 1600 by 1000. This is confusing if you don't. Thank you. That's what I'm doing now. Boom. Okay. That needs a constructor. I don't know what to make it though. 0 or 320 or 200. Or we actually need something like game res. No, application resolution, not game. Application res. That's so long. Application, we call that the application resolution. T, that's I need a better naming scheme, Dave. Ach, it's fine. No. So we have something like this, right? The weird thing is, things like the level editor. Is it? That render resolution, that's so long, it's way too long. App render resolution. That looks unreadable. That is definitely gonna want to change later. Scale X. Then in theory one could pass those in a makefile even. These values, if they're not defined, makefile is not really the right place for it. But you could do something like shift def set and define that as something like that, and then that could be set from a makefile. Optionally. Just thinking out loud. Application render resolution. That's horrible. I want to throw up. Why do we need application? We know it's the application. Render is because to distinguish from the video, like 3020 by 200 is the Dave Newcomb application resolution. It's horrible. But then what should we use during the game? That. Why not just use that? Over there. Why have the struct? Why not just use that? And then we should have one big define that says something like /if dg1 build dg1 else, lots of question marks. This could even come out of a config file. Oh, that's, yeah, this could in theory even be read out of a config file. The config file. The compiler can optimize better if it's constant like this. Or it could be like better variable. Press comes either way and might be game dependent. So string needs to be maxable. You know what, I shouldn't be doing this to do Newcomb. I should create something new. Create a new engine. Anyway, whatever. It's just a few small changes, really, actually. It'll make the engine... Yeah, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple for now. Just like this. Alright. So yeah, that's another way to pass it via the makefile, is to do it like that. So if it's been passed in via the makefile, it's already defined. Otherwise, do it like that. So the question is, do I create a config.h? Or is that like... or not? It's still... I can move it around later. That should go in this source. Oh, there's already a config.h. Ah, I thought so. Why is it not here? Oh, header files. Ew. I didn't like that. Alright. Config.h. Of course we have a config.h. I not even a... I don't know when this file started. No copyright notice. Ah, here we go. Yes, this is exactly... Forgot about all this. Yes, so yeah, you would make it 32 by 32 if you wanted, though that also needs some work, because there's still a lot of 16s that are hard-coded, which is the next thing I want to look at. Ah, there is already a thing like that. So hash, yeah, if tbuild nukem 1, yeah. And I want to rename that. Actually, I don't even want to do that, to be honest. Why is that? I didn't understand. Hacky? Technically wrong, but emulates DN1 behavior. And I quite like it because it squares the unfairness in some situations. Yeah, I don't remember. Oh, basically in DN1 your monsters fly over solid single block in front of you, but still hit boxes. So technically the physics doesn't make sense. This is very Duke Nukem 1 specific. Alrighty, so I'm going to add new config options. Don't use that for now, let's just do this. Let's put it below that, because it may depend on that. Okay, 78. So for now, I'm not going to make it dynamically changeable or sit in a global variable. For now, we're literally just going to use that. And I want every file to include config.h, quite frankly. This is a bit weird because the library is not supposed to know about config. That's actually a wrong dependency, isn't it? It should sit in the game but be passed to the library, but then we need a variable. And for speed reasons, I don't want a variable. Actually, no, it's fine. It's just config.h. Can refactor it later. What? Oh, I know what's wrong. Should probably be that. That's the element series direction. That's actually not the biggest thing in the world to worry about. No. However, okay. This is for so we don't need this thing. Let's later we could do this if we want to. Basically everywhere we have 320, we're gonna make it configurable like so. And everywhere we have a height, yeah, everywhere we have 200. Well, not everywhere, because there might be 200s we don't want to change. We must be just careful. This ought to be interesting, hey? Well done, you've reached the end of the game. Width equals 320 divided by 8 minus 1. That could be a 320. Whatever. Right, pay this back. It's because very DN1, DG1 specific. Graph flip. What's graph flip? Oh, I think there's an extra step for the viewport. So we render the viewport to another buffer, I think. And remember. Why is that not 8? Whatever. So basically I'm trying to that should actually be the first thing included. That one's at 320 because it's for now. Macros can be converted to const expression. Yes. I think it might be used some prompts. Okay. I think I recall seeing someone use it on the forum somewhere. I'm afraid to delete it, to move it. Alright. I'm not sure if these should change. It's the redefined keys window, but then that one can stay as well. Actually no, it shouldn't. It should move. Haskell username. Next left equals. That I'm a bit unsure of doing, but anyway. With no columns. I'm on a 16, I think. To have a little thing on the sides that should be res w. Debatable. There are probably other ways to solve it. If somebody's using, see, the 640 by 400 thing, it's not, that flag is not really the right thing, way to solve it. See how many 320s are left in the game. Some of comment. Let's see how many 200s we can find. No, there's 200s, there are very few 320s by chance, but there's a lot of weird 200s that have nothing to do with, like their 200 is used as an alpha value, so we can't just change all 200s blindly to, you know, the vertical resolution. That one looks 200, a bit larger, right? 200 minus, that's H. Is that it? This ought to be weird. I know there's still a few more. Alright, let's mess around here and make it like 640 by 400. Don't know exactly what's going to happen. Or better, 1280 by 720. For a more modern aspect ratio. Wow, that's cool. But why is the menu all the way up there? Huh? Control Shift G, Control Shift W. Hmm? What? A bit confused about what's happening there. Let's go. Of course, the game skin and all that stuff is just so those things draw. The game skin draws 320 by 200. But we have a 640 by 400. Uh, 1280 by 720. So I mean it doesn't change. confused. Come on. I don't know what I expected to see. Starting again. Why is it tiny? Oh, because yeah, the game... We're saying the game's buffer is bigger than it really is. We're saying we have a game that we want to have a... Yeah, alright, that's correct, that's not wrong. The part that's wrong to me is below. The fact that I can see djockey.com, that's not clearing. That should be cleared, like, I don't know when exactly, but it should clear it. It shouldn't, okay, Control Shift W now behaves like this, and backslash. See, the slightly odd part now is that the health is drawing up there, but it's not ending up on the... Why don't I see my health? That's a bit weird. Why don't I see my health? Alright, and why doesn't that work? What's happening? I think what's happening is a couple of things. The window is now got a multiple of 1, because we can only... There's a 1-to-1 pixel ratio between the window, so it's not using the third buffer. So the retro settings stop working. For the retro settings, you have to force it to use the third buffer, and even when it's the same resolution. We go to DJG flip. If we go to this function, basically if we take out an yeah, alright, will be force. Okay. Yeah, and that's equal to that, must be. Okay. Control Shift G, Control Shift W. Still don't see the health. But now the CGA works, yes. Okay, I think we should then always do this so that we have the effects. It's faster to blit though. If we don't want the effects, it's better not to do this. The only reason to do this is for the effects. But then where is my health? Let's see what that graph flip function does. The health is drawing way over on the right side. Flip the view into the back buffer, or third buffer. Flip the back buffer. That doesn't flip the back buffer to the front buffer, I don't think. DGG flip. Viz main, viz back. Draw health. Have large report mode. And draw the health. Backslash B. That looks... Does this look right? Not 100% right, because why is there a gap on the right hand side? Perhaps we have to combine it. Huh? No, backslash B. Why is there a gap on the right hand side? Where is my health? I wonder if this has anything to do, the discrepancy has anything to do with the DPI stuff. If I change the DPI setting though in the stream is going to die. Can't do that. Doesn't die, but OBS, the screen goes black. Alright, didn't used to do that. In large viewport mode, it's drawing times 8 times 3. No. Alright. There's nothing wrong with that, it looks right. Basically it should be drawing in the top right corner. That is very DN1 specific, you know what? DG1. That is not very... There should really be like more object oriented, like a widget system. The health should be like a widget, and a widget knows how to draw itself. And the widget, you just call widget to draw. The widget knows where it is on the screen. Or something, I don't know. Anyway. It doesn't matter right now. The point is... Eight, 16, 24, 32, right? Let's draw the health like 5 times in different places. Actually B. Let's just check something as well. I'm going to just take a screenshot. Yes, I know my screen's blank. Let's put it back now. Let's just measure this in pixels. So the DPI scaling, regardless of DPI scaling, that is in fact 1280 by 720. So the DPI scaling fix is working correctly. So then the only reason I can think is that there's a blank gap on the side is because the game has this blank gap here on its right hand side by default. So maybe let's just see again if I run dev newcom, the pre-compiled one, and I enable the cheats and I go to big viewport mode. Oh, there is a gap on the right. And my health is not visible. Oh. Wait a minute. What? It's really not visible. There's no health visible. This large viewport stuff is nonsense. Look at this. I mean, we slow down every calculation for a mode we never use. Look at us. Okay, rethink. Okay. View width equals 20 by 13. View offsets. Yeah, that's the level. Oh, I'm confusing big viewport mode with large viewport mode. Not to be confused. Alright, today. Nonsense. Okay. Top left of game viewport. 16 by 16. Wait. Start new game. Control Shift G \B. Yes, 16 by 16. So that's actually big viewport mode. Why doesn't it go all the way to the right? That's what I want to know now. View width. Is view width divided by 16 minus 10. Oh, because the idea was that the health was still supposed to be drawn on the right. That thing was somehow supposed to stretch. And that's horrible. I think it should be more like still, where's the health? It should be drawing then right there. I think the health, yes, it draws the health. Basically this should be big viewport mode, right? Keep closing. Okay. Control Shift G \B. Still no health. like if you look at the other mode, the Control-Shift-W mode. Oh, it's also not drawing the health anymore. That's because the game flip. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not drawing the health. This one draws to his view instead of his back. Maybe that's got something to do with it. His view, I think, is the viewport buffer. If large viewport. Here's what it's supposed to do, right? Okay, this is the normal one. Enable the cheats. Control-Shift-W. There's the health in the top right. So in 320 by 200 this works. Rendering to the view. This view. Width. But this view is the viewport, so we're drawing on the game viewport. That's why it's working. But that's what we want. We want to draw on the game viewport. Blink, blink. Is it? I don't know. Confused now. But then it should, if we want to draw on the viewport, why don't we then, instead of use this, say this view width. Or something like that. It's still not going to be visible. Show you why now. It might be. Control-Shift-G. Control-Shift-W. No health. What's happening, man? Control-Shift-B. Control-Shift-W. This view. Maybe it's just getting drawn over. Like maybe it draws the health first instead of last. Maybe we just need to change the order we draw the health. We can redraw everything or whatever. Redraw everything helper. Look, yeah, game draw skin. That's that little backdrop there thing. Graph flip the view. That's, yeah, that thing that we're seeing for the game viewport. And then it calls draw health after it's flipped the view. into his back from this view. Okay. View width, view height, view offset X. And it calls draw health. Yes, the game probably starts, but then it draws the health into the view after it's flipped it. That's probably why. So either we must draw the health first, and the score. That's also wrong, because... is it? I'm not sure. Okay, that works. It's a change I'm very nervous to make, because it could break existings. Control-Shift-G, \B, still no freaking health. Where's my health? Control-Shift-W, still no health. That's because it's using the... it's drawing the health. Yeah, it should use those variables, actually. If you're drawing into the view, if you're drawing into the vis view, then you must use... RV width times 16. That is the... or... no, just RV width times 16. That will put it in the top right of the freaking view. But there's no such thing. Where does that come from? It's the first variable to graph flip view, which is the view width, view underscore width. Control-Shift-W, not there. And \B, not there. Maybe we must add the view offset. Graph flip view. Source visual. Wait. Yeah, view is back. Okay. View it. X destination, Y destination. X source. Control-Shift-G, \B. Still no health in the top right. Control-Shift-W. Maybe redraw everything helper doesn't get called much. So actually, basically, draw health. I think what's happening is it's drawing the health for one frame and then it's gone. Yes, I think that's what's happening. Instead of drawing at every single frame, because it draws it when it changes only on in the normal DG1 game, because it doesn't need to draw it every frame. So we need a line of code somewhere like that, basically. I think basically everything that's overlays on top of the main game window, because it's built in layers. Yeah, so we draw the skin, then we flip the viewport in, and then there's overlays on the viewport, or there's overlays on the... Why is this more complicated than I expected? I thought this would be like a 10-minute change. Set health, draw health, you see. Game draw view. Ah, you see, if large viewport mode, then it draws the health and all the other stuff. Or big viewport mode. Now, I've already forgotten which is which. Backside B is big viewport mode, okay. B. There's a health. But that's still not right. What's going on? Why is pop 2 blocks there and the rest there? Let's go to wide view mode. That's also not right. At least it's drawing it. Boom. And we lose health. So it's closer to correct. Big viewport mode. So actually big viewport mode wasn't really right. Draw health. Graph draw string. The health should probably have its own font, its own dedicated, not font even, a sprite or something. So there's several more buffers than I remembered. Okay, not several, but there's also a viewport buffer basically, just for the game viewport. So yeah, there's an extra, it draws the game view, but that gets flipped while drawing the other stuff. Alright, Control Shift G, backslash, Control Shift W. So there should be a health bar in the top right. No, but this is large viewport mode. View offset X. The view offset X is 0 in this case. Plus view width. The view width is 20 by 13. Offset X is 0. Oh, view width is in game units. So we can't just use it like that. 20, for example. We have to multiply it for block width. And let's take all these out to avoid confusion. Control Shift G, backslash B. Perfect. Health in the top right. Now if I go Control Shift W, also health in the top right. When we flip modes, it should draw black over everything. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about that now. Right, so Control Shift G, Control Shift W, and there's our health in the top right. Lovely. Control, if we go backslash B for this cheat mode, again it's still in the top right of the viewport. You know, I don't know if that entirely makes sense, but whatever. Alright, so Control Shift W again, it puts us in this mode. If I run the pre-built one, go Control Shift G, Control Shift W, we also see our score. So we now need to just do the same fix for things like the score. What else was there? Inventory. So let's see where the key goes. The key displays bottom right. But if I go pick up that key, it's not in the bottom right. If we go into big mode, big mode, it is big mode, still not in the bottom right. Yeah, so the health, the inventory, and whatever the other one was. We should call these overlays, viewport overlays. So we need to do similar little bit of math, and frankly that is just gross. We should have another variable that makes these things easier, but anyway. So the draw firepower, oh yeah, there's 4 things. Health, inventory, save large viewport, or big viewport. That's really silly variables. Big. What? Oh, I guess it's defined somewhere else. So the inventory, right, -16, bottom right, report overlay. Now I don't need to fix these in DG1, they aren't really bugs, but I mean I do, but what I'm just trying to do is make the engine more generic so that it all makes sense if we do want to make an actual game that's, you know, high resolution, which is what I want to experimentally try to do. Alright, so this should be view x plus blah 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 blah. That's the right, that takes us to the right, minus I times 1 times 60 time, and that should be the offset of y plus height times block height. So the inventory, bottom right. Before larger, really bad. Anyway, inventory. I should put the basic license info probably in these files, but anyway. Lexicography on screen. Draw inventory. Yeah, that's very hard coded for DG1. That could even be a config file. I like these things, you know what I mean? Alright. Okay, Control Shift G, /B. Now I should pick up the key. Should display in the bottom right. There we go. Inventory in the bottom right. If we switch to Control Shift W, inventory in the bottom right. /B. /B again just to go to normal mode, and our inventory's back there. Perfect. Except for the not clearing when it switches between modes. Okay. Wow, no bounce checking. Scary. It's really Okay, if p large report. So there were a couple of things there. What was it? The health, the score, draw score. Firepower. Actually, I don't think that really makes a difference. So it really makes a difference because I'm not sure if that's right. Because you see, in DG1, these all draw on the side, on top of the skin, into the back buffer. So it makes no difference in DG1. Okay, yeah, in normal DG1. In big viewport mode, it does make a difference. Okay, draw everything else. So, draw score. So yeah, the same inventory, firepower. The score is more like the health. Instead of that, it must be that. Simple. And the y must be the opposite y plus 8. That's it, to put it to below the health. Very hard coded. There must be better ways. So anyway, whatever. Right. Why is that moaning now? Okay, large report, omega report. So draw score and firepower. Check with the firepower draws. This is a cheat mode, just for the record. Okay, the firepower draws in the bottom left. If we have 4 overlays. So we do need to add. Let's go to inv draw again. Bottom left, bottom right, bottom left. And x equals bottom left, right? So the y in x plus item 16. Right? 5. Oh, it's 5 from a 0. In x, you put x. Actually, that should just be just that. You put x. You put y plus v height times block height minus block height. Okay, I did something wrong here then. Right. Control Shift J, backslash B. There's our what? Why is that inventory now? Oh no, that's not an inventory. Okay. So yeah, there's our firepower as an overlay in the bottom left. It's a bit confusing, but we should probably make like a semi-transparent thing underneath it, or make it look different. Use a different sprite for the overlays. Anyway, backslash. Let's check the inventory. So there's our key. Now we go Control Shift W, and everything looks right. Backslash B again. So now the idea is we want to also make like 32 by 32, unlimited